Imagine working for 30 or 40 years in America without ever having a 401k, no retirement account you controlled, no employer match. So how are ordinary Americans supposed to retire? Picture a man named John standing at the end of his shift in a Midwestern auto plant in the 1950s. John is not a historical figure, but a composite of thousands of real workers who built America's cars, clocks, and washing machines. He has a steady job, a spouse, and a household budget that stretches from payday to payday. For John, retirement is not a single account or a personal nest egg, but a patchwork of resources and promises, some more certain than others. John's employer offers a pension, a formal promise that after enough years on the line, he'll receive a monthly payment for life. The details of how that number is calculated, his years of service, his final salary, the plan's fine print, are not his daily concern, at least not yet. Alongside the pension, John expects Social Security, the federal benefit that arrives after a lifetime of payroll taxes. It's another stream, not a full replacement for his working income, but a piece of the puzzle. Personal savings matter, too. John and his wife keep a passbook at the local bank, adding small amounts when they can. Some months there's a little extra to set aside. Other times an unexpected repair or a doctor's bill wipes out their progress. By their 50s, they hope to own their home outright, cutting expenses in retirement. If things get tight, John's wife might keep working part-time, or their grown children could help with groceries or bills. Each family's mix is different. Some rely more on savings, others on relatives, some on continued work. This combination is just one example. Access to employer pensions, Social Security, or even a steady wage depended on many factors. The size of the company, union membership, occupation, income, race, gender, and whether a person could work without long interruptions. For John, each resource is separate. A pension is a promise, but savings and family help depend on what life brings. Retirement security is never just a number in an account. It's a ledger filled with lines that add up differently for every household. A pension from John's employer isn't just a handshake or a vague hope, it's a specific kind of promise. In the 1950s, most large companies that offered retirement plans used what's called a defined benefit formula. The math is simple, even if the paperwork isn't. Take the number of years John works, multiply by a set percentage, often around 1.5% to 2%, and then multiply again by his average pay during his last few years on the job. That's the amount the company pledges to pay him every month after he retires, for as long as he lives. John doesn't have to worry about the ups and downs of the stock market or how long he'll live. The company takes on that risk. For many, this benefit feels like a continuation of the weekly paycheck, just without the morning alarm. But not every retirement plan works this way. Some employers, even back then, offered something different, the defined contribution plan. Instead of a promise about future income, these plans set aside money in an account during each year of work. Sometimes the worker contributes, sometimes the employer, sometimes both. The final amount depends on how much goes in and how well those investments perform. When John retires, he gets what's in the account, no more, no less. The risk and the reward are his to manage. There's no fixed monthly check, just a pool of money to draw from, invest, or spend down over time. The difference is more than just numbers on a page. A defined benefit plan offers the comfort of a steady income, no matter what happens in the markets or how long retirement lasts. A defined contribution plan offers flexibility and ownership, but also uncertainty. For workers like John, the employer's promise is more than a line in a contract. It's the foundation of how he imagines life after the factory floor. The Social Security Act of 1935 added a new layer to the retirement equation. For the first time, the federal government offered old age insurance, funded by payroll taxes from both workers and employers. But Social Security wasn't designed to take the place of a working wage. Instead, it was built as a foundation, a basic guarantee that every covered worker would receive a monthly check in old age, no matter what happened to their employer or savings. The typical retirement formula in the 1950s looked like this: employer pension plus Social Security plus personal savings equals retirement income. Each piece mattered. Social Security filled in the gaps, especially for those who had little or no pension, or whose savings never grew large enough to stand alone. But the original law left many out. Agricultural workers and domestic servants, jobs held disproportionately by Black Americans and women, were excluded at first. That meant millions of families, especially in the South and in cities, received no federal benefit until the 1950 amendments began to expand coverage. Even then, vesting rules required a decade of steady, covered work, so frequent job changes or career interruptions could mean losing out on benefits entirely. Over the years, Social Security's role grew. Amendments in 1939 added survivor and spousal benefits. Disability insurance came in 1956. The program's progressive formula gave lower-wage workers a higher share of their former income, making it especially important for those without strong pensions or big savings accounts. But for everyone, Social Security was only one leg of the stool. If a pension failed or savings disappeared, the household ledger could tip from stability to crisis in a single year. The system depended on each part holding up its share, and the loss of any one stream could quickly unravel a family's plans for retirement. In South Bend, Indiana, the Studebaker factory once stood as a symbol of steady work and secure retirement. By the early 1960s, though, Studebaker was fighting for survival. The company's pension plan, set up in 1951 for hourly workers, was supposed to guarantee a monthly income after a lifetime on the line. But when the plant closed its doors in December 1963, the numbers behind that promise fell apart. On paper, the plan had a 30-year funding target, but Studebaker's finances had been unraveling for years. When the shutdown came, the pension fund was short by about $15 million. That gap meant the plan couldn't cover what it owed. The consequences landed unevenly. About 3,600 workers, mostly those already retired or at least 60 years old, received the full benefits they'd been promised. For them, the pension held. But for roughly 7,000 younger workers, the outcome was far different. Some got a fraction of what they'd earned, often 15 cents on the dollar. Nearly 3,000 received nothing at all. Whether a worker qualified for any payout depended almost entirely on age and years of service. The 1964 settlement formalized this split, leaving thousands with little more than a reminder of what a pension promise could mean and what it could fail to deliver. At the time, there was no federal insurance system to back up the plan. The Studebaker collapse showed that a pension's value depended not just on a formula, but on the financial health of the company and the legal protections around it. Studebaker's collapse sent a warning through boardrooms and union halls, but it wasn't the only sign of trouble. In the decades after World War II, American industry faced new pressures. Factories that once dominated the global market now competed with companies from Europe and Japan. Manufacturing jobs shifted, and companies restructured to stay afloat. Workers like John, who might have spent a lifetime on one assembly line, now changed jobs more often. The promise of a pension tied to a single employer became harder to keep when the workforce itself grew more mobile. For employers, the cost of traditional defined benefit pensions became a growing burden. These plans required companies to make long-term funding promises, even during recessions or business downturns. As union power declined and fewer contracts guaranteed lifetime jobs, companies looked for ways to limit their future obligations. New accounting rules in the 1970s made pension liabilities more visible to investors, putting extra pressure on corporate leaders to control costs. Congress responded to the mounting risks with the Employee Retirement Income Security Act, ERISA, in 1974. This law set strict standards for funding, reporting, and managing pension plans. It also created the Pension Benefit Guarantee Corporation, a federal backstop for workers whose plans failed. But these protections came at a price: more complex rules, higher administrative expenses, and tougher funding requirements. For many employers, the old model no longer made sense. The shift wasn't instant or universal, but the ground was moving. Over time, the search for predictable, affordable retirement benefits pushed companies to consider new arrangements, setting the stage for the next chapter in American retirement. In 1978, Congress added Section 401k to the Revenue Act, a quiet change in the tax code that let workers defer part of their pay. At first, it was a technical rule for profit-sharing plans, not a blueprint for mass retirement saving. Ted Benna, a benefits consultant, saw its potential. By 1981, IRS guidance confirmed that employees could choose to put a portion of their salary into a tax-deferred account. Companies quickly adopted the idea, and by the mid-1980s, 401k plans spread across the country. Workers could now direct part of each paycheck into their own accounts, often boosted by employer matching. Unlike traditional pensions, these savings belonged to the worker and could move with them from job to job. The shift brought new risks. Workers now decided how much to save and where to invest. The outcome depended on their choices and market performance, with no guaranteed monthly check. Longevity risk, the chance of outliving savings, became personal. Market swings, inflation, and the risk of saving too little all landed on the individual. Employers gained predictable costs and less long-term obligation. Retirement security moved from company promise to personal responsibility, trading steady income for flexibility and uncertainty. Today, Americans carry more personal responsibility for retirement than ever. Market swings, inflation, and longer lives raise the stakes. The question has shifted from trusting a company's promise to asking, did you save enough? So before the 401k, Americans didn't have no retirement system. They had a very different one.